Good morning, good afternoon, or good night, and welcome to Command Power, the show in which we discuss all things Magic the Gathering with a focus on Commander. And today we have another episode in our Spoiler Spotlight series in which I talk about, well, spoilers and tell you what my thoughts are on them. But before that, just a quick reminder to click subscribe if you enjoy my videos. We're well on our way to 1 million subscribers and your support means everything to me. And today we're going to be talking about Ripples of Potential. For one colorless and one blue, it's an instant that says proliferate, then choose any number of permanents you control that had a counter put on them this way. Those permanents phase out. To proliferate, choose any number of permanents and or players, then give each another counter of each kind already there. Treat phased out permanents and anything attached to them as though they don't exist until their controller's next turn. So I really like this and I think it's a huge game changer for a lot of decks, and it's currently pre-selling for quite a bit of money. So I think it seems that people agree with me on this one. I do hope it drops a bit, but anyway, the reason it's so good is because proliferate is a very powerful ability, and we're getting more and more proliferate effects as every set comes out, which means there's a lot more cards that this synergizes with. But the phase out part is what really makes this card very strong. So you can basically phase out any permanent that had a counter put on it with this. That basically means that anything that had a counter before you played this spell can be protected by Ripples of Potential. This is really huge in +1/+1 counters decks, or decks in general that want to be playing around with counters even if they're not +1/+1. And the reason for that is that previously we've had to play stuff like Inspiring Call, which by the way I think you will absolutely still play, but that left us very weak to bounce style removal or exile style removal or anything that really wasn't destroy or damage based. This kind of gets around that very nicely by phasing out all of the permanents, and they're going to be gone until your next turn, so there is a little bit of downside there. If your opponent has a really big board and they play a one-sided board wipe, then they're going to be able to swing into your empty board if you phase everything out. But other than that corner case scenario, this is going to protect you very handily until your next turn, and it does a very good impression of Teferi's protection in these kind of decks. Not only that, but whilst it doesn't protect your face, it does cost 1 less than Teferi's protection and is actually going to buff your board as well, which is a huge deal. But the reason this shines over something like Inspiring Call, for example, is that it also hits non-creature permanents. It can also protect your crucial non-creature pieces that people might be trying to remove. So say somebody casts a Farewell, naming enchantments and artifacts in order to deal with your Helix Pinnacle and Darksteel Reactor. You can just play this in response, put another counter on both of those, and then get to phase them both out. Even though Helix Pinnacle has Shroud, this doesn't actually target, so you can still get to do that and protect your crucial win conditions very nicely. Sometimes you'll actually be happy with this effect just as a way to proliferate at instant speed. If you have a big board that's got a bunch of counters on it, say thanks to something like Defiler of Vigor, sometimes you might actually just be able to win the game by giving your whole team +1/+1. That's not going to be what you're using this card for 90% of the time, but it's a really good option to have when it can win you the game, whereas if you didn't have that option on this card, you might not be able to finish off one of your opponents. It's just very flexible and powerful, and that is a combination of things that are going to make it very strong. Obviously, it's going to be at its absolute best in decks that are revolving around counters, but if you have a commander that is counter-based and a few counter creatures in the deck, that might be enough to already play this as long as you want to keep your commander safe. In any case, this is definitely a card to pay attention to as we move forward with the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. So there you have it. Those have been my thoughts on this new spoiler. What do you think about this card? Please let me know in the comment section below. I read all comments and respond to all of them too. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click like or subscribe. It really helps the channel. And until next time, take care.